are not going to just talk about shapes. I hope by the time you got to 7th grade, you know what a triangle is, what a rectangle is, hopefully what a parallelogram and a trapezoid are, but I'm going to remind you of those things, but we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about that. In this geometry unit, we're going to spend time learning about area, perimeter, okay? We're going to do area and perimeter of all of those things. We'll talk about circles, circumference and area of circles. And then next week, we'll do a little review day on all of that and a quiz on all of that. And then we're going to move to more irregular shapes. We're kind of going to finish 2-dimensional geometry, take a test on that, and then we're going to move to 3-dimensional geometry. So we'll do prisms, surface area and volume, and cylinders, surface area and volume. Okay? So we'll kind of break this unit into 2 parts. So although this packet seems large, it's almost like 2 units in one packet. Okay? All right, so perimeter and area of rectangles, parallelograms, triangles, and trapezoids. Let's first of all remind ourselves of some shapes here. Right? Okay, just good reminders because I know sometimes we forget, and we don't mean to forget, but we do. Okay, what shape is this? Come on, people! I know you can do it. What shape is that? Shout it out.
Rectangle.
Rectangle, right? Okay. Okay, this is a
Square.
Oh, good job. We got it now. This? Yeah, so some people said diamond. Kind of is like a diamond, but it is a parallelogram. Okay, now, just remember that parallelograms don't necessarily have right angles. A rectangle is also a parallelogram, but more specifically, it's a rectangle, okay? A parallelogram is like a tilted rectangle, okay? So this is also a parallelogram. Okay, what is this?
Triangle.
Good job, we've got this. This is a triangle. And these are also triangles. Okay. And then we've got these 3 shapes over here. Those are what, Matthew? Trapezoids. No, a rhombus is like a parallelogram, so it's like a tilted square. A rhombus is if you just take a square and tilt it. A trapezoid has to only have one set of parallel sides, and the other sides are not parallel. Okay? So maybe a good thing that I put this on there to remind you what these shapes look like, right? So we've got a rectangle, square, parallelograms, triangles, and trapezoids. Okay? All right. So we're going to talk about perimeter first. How do you find perimeter of an object? What does perimeter mean? Hi, Hayden. Welcome. Here, you need this. What does perimeter mean? If I said you are going to find the perimeter of this classroom, or I want you to walk around the perimeter of this classroom, what would you do? Okay, if I said everybody's going to stand up and I want you to go stand on the perimeter of the classroom, where would you go? Really? Yeah. You'd stand on the outside of the classroom. Okay, that is the perimeter. How do we find perimeter? Krista? You just add the sides. So how to find add all the sides together. Okay, it's simple addition. Okay, don't make it complicated. But the key word in here is add all the sides. You can't skip any sides. Okay? Again, you should be writing this down, right? Your notes you get to use on tests. You should be writing this down. Even if you think you know it, write it down anyway. Okay, so if I look at this first one, what am I all adding together?
4 times
4 plus 10 plus 7. And you would grab your calculator and the answer is 21. Okay, that is the perimeter or the distance around the outside. Okay, how about the next one? What do I do? Friendly. 42. Does it matter what order you put the numbers in?
No.
No. Doesn't really matter. Okay, you're just adding them all up. Okay, here's where we tend to make mistakes. Perimeter is easy. But for some reason, 7th graders get this one wrong all the time. Brooklyn.
You have to do the 14 on top and then on the other side.
Yeah. So remember I said the key word is all the sides? So immediately I'm guessing some of you went, oh, just do 14 plus 5. That's 19. But that would be wrong. Because you forgot about 2 of the sides. So you have to remember it's all of them. 14 plus 5 plus 14 plus 5. So it's 38 centimeters all the way around it. Okay, so don't forget all of the sides. Okay, how about the last one here? What would you get? Exactly. 72. 20 plus 16 plus 20 plus 16. 72 feet all the way around it. Okay? All right, so on the next slide, you do those 4. Find the perimeter of those 4 shapes. Okay, you guys, obviously, you can use a calculator, right? I mean, you can do it in your head for sure. But if you want to use a calculator, I don't care. If you want to double check the math you did in your head, I need to do that once in a while, right? Otherwise, I make really dumb mistakes sometimes. Okay? So, what do you get for the triangle? Caleb? 26. 9 plus 6 plus 11. 26 is the perimeter. Okay? How about this? This is a quadrilateral. Just has 4 sides. I can't call it a trapezoid because these are not parallel. But what's the perimeter of that quadrilateral? Go ahead. 49 is correct. Just adding all the sides together. Okay, how about the rectangle? Go ahead, Ariana. 14. Don't forget that this is 4 and this is 3, so you need all of them. And the parallelogram here. Really? 9. Okay, because you need this side is 3.5 and this side is 1. Easy enough, right? Perimeter is easy. Okay, so then what if I said to find the missing side? Find the missing measurement for the trapezoid with a perimeter of 71 inches. So if I tell you that the perimeter is 71, find the missing side, what do I do then? Savannah?
You can take 71 minus 18, 15, and 22.
So if I just subtract all of those things, we'd have whatever's left for D, and it would be 16. Okay? If we know the whole amount, we can subtract everything off, and we can have what's left. Okay, perimeter's pretty easy. Didn't I? Hang on. I thought I did, but okay, so let's go to the next part of this, okay? The rest of this is all about area. What does area mean? We know perimeter is around the outside. Okay, so perimeter is around the outside. What is area?
Is it like how much space it takes up?
Yeah. So area means the number of squares it takes to cover the surface. Okay. So if I was going to find the area of this classroom, and I gave you guys all a whole bunch of square pieces of paper, like this. Okay, so if I gave you a bunch of squares, and I said, I want you to find the area of this room based on this square, you'd have to figure out how many of these squares would it take to cover the floor. Okay? Now, obviously, the bigger the square, the less it would take, right? So when we talk about a square, oh, where I put my rulers? I have it over here. A square foot. Okay, a square foot is when we have a square that is 1 foot by 1 foot. Okay? That's what they're talking about when they say a square foot. So if I had another ruler, because I don't know where they went. Somebody stole my rulers.
You just have your ruler. Come in.
Okay. This will be a better visual. Okay, this is a right angle, but if this was a full square, this is what we would consider a square foot. Okay, so when we talk about square feet, it's a square that is a foot by a foot. Okay, when you hear a square yard, it's 1 yard by 1 yard, even bigger. Okay, when we label area, that's why we always label it units squared. Okay, that doesn't mean to square the number. That just means we're talking about a square foot, or a square centimeter, or a square inch. Okay, so it's 1 inch by 1 inch, or 1 foot by 1 foot. Okay, that's what that means. Okay, so if we're going to find the area of a rectangle or a parallelogram, okay, a rectangle or parallelogram, the area is the base times the height. You guys probably already knew that, right? You learned that a long time ago. This is the formula for a rectangle or a parallelogram. Area equals base times height. You just multiply the two numbers together. So if it's a rectangle, that's 5 units by 3 units. 5 times 3 is 15. Done. If it's a parallelogram, okay, we don't look at the slanted side, we look at the base and the height. In this case, it's still 5 by 3, so it's 15. Okay? So, if we try this a couple times, here, let's look at these. Look at letter A. Okay, flip the page. Letter A, I want you to find the area of this figure. Now, it's a parallelogram. To find the area, you need area equals base times height. Okay, so if I write that formula down, now I just need to replace the letters. Do we know the base of this? What's the base? Or the bottom? Really? 10 inches. I could put the 10 down there, it's the same. Okay, so it's 10 times, which number is the height? There's two numbers here. Which one's the height? It's the 12 inches. The height always has to be the distance between the top and the bottom. Okay? It can't be slanted. It has to be perpendicular. So the height is 12, so we have 120 inches squared. There's our answer for the first one. Okay? I know the boxes on your note sheet's kind of small. You can write in the margins. Okay, you can write on the sides. Okay, letter B is a rectangle. Area equals base times height. What's the base? What's the height? Caleb. On this one.
Oh, what?
15 and 5. So you're just multiplying 15 times 5. 15 times 5 is? I got 75? So 75 yards squared. Okay. How about letter C? Area, it's a rectangle, equals base times height. What would you get?
42.
42. 3 times 14 is 42. How would I label it when there's not a label? Okay, then I would just put units squared. So 42 units squared. And letter D, again, area equals base times height. 20 times 16, which is 320 inches squared. Okay, questions on rectangles or parallelograms? It's pretty simple, right? Pretty straightforward. Okay, the last part is area of triangles and trapezoids. Okay, now, here's why I put this on the board over here. A triangle or a trapezoid can just be thought of half of a parallelogram. Okay? If I look at this, here I have two triangles that are put together. What shape is it when they're put together? It's a parallelogram, right? And these two triangles are identical. If I take one of the triangles away, now it's just a triangle. If I take half of it away, it's just a triangle. So somebody remind me, how would I find the area of this parallelogram? How do I find the area of a parallelogram? Of the whole thing? Because we just did this on the last slide. What do we do? Brinley? I would do the base times the height. Agreed? Okay. If I only want the triangle, I want half of it. How do we find half of something? Divided by 2. Okay, I don't know if anybody's ever explained to you why The formula is base times height divided by 2. Has anybody ever told you why? Or they just tell you that's the formula? Kind of just tell you that's the formula, right? Okay, well here's why. If we have a whole parallelogram, we would do base times height. We only want half of it, so the formula for a triangle is base times height divided by 2. Okay, so this is our formula for triangles. Okay, and it's right on your sheet. Base times height divided by 2. Okay, for a trapezoid, it's a little bit more complicated. Okay, the formula for a trapezoid looks like this. Okay, it looks a little bit messy, and here's why. Okay, I'm going to go back a slide. If I look at this trapezoid, okay, if I look at what I have up here, okay, a trapezoid really has 2 bases. Okay, because I could set it like this, or I could set it like this. Everybody agree with that? Okay, so I'm going to call them base 1 and base 2. Okay, now if I put this whole thing together, if I put these 2 trapezoids together to make a parallelogram, the base of the parallelogram is really base 1 plus base 2. Right? You put them together. So I would do base 1 plus base 2 times the height to get the whole area. But I only want half of it. So then I divide it by 2. Okay? So my formula becomes base 1 plus base 2. You have to add them together first, times the height, divided by 2. Okay, so this is the formula for a trapezoid. Okay, so let's try to use these formulas a couple times to make sure we know how they work. Okay, this first shape is obviously a triangle. Okay, on your paper, I want you to write area A equals B times H divided by 2. You guys, if we start with the formula, we can't get it wrong. It gets pretty hard to get wrong. Okay? That is the formula for a triangle. Now I'm going to replace the B. What should I replace the B with? Caleb, 20. The base is 20. What should I replace the H with? Cassidy, 15. Okay, then we can use our calculator. Base times height, 20 times 15 divided by 2 is what? Go ahead, Caleb. Is 150 units squared in this case. Okay, I'm just doing 20 times 15 divided by 2. Okay, the second one, this is a trapezoid. But it's kind of a trapezoid sitting on its side. Okay? The 6 is not the base. The 5 and the 9 are the bases. The bases have to be parallel to each other. So I kind of have to turn myself, or turn your paper. I can't turn my TV. Okay? But if you turn your paper, then you can see it. This is, I'm going to call it base 1. And this is base 2. And this is the height. The distance between the bases is the height. Okay, so when I solve this problem, I'm going to start with the formula. Area equals, so write this down. In parentheses, B1 plus B2 times H divided by 2. Okay, if we write that down, Now we can just fill in the blanks. What's base 1? 5. Base 2 is 9. The height is 6. Okay, now you gotta listen really closely. You can't just grab your calculator and type it all in at once. You're probably gonna get the wrong answer. In fact, I know you will. If you type this all in at once, you're gonna type 5 plus 9 times 6. Your calculator is gonna do 9 times 6 first. And that's not what you want, right? You have to do what's in the parentheses first. Do that in your head. What's 5 plus 9? 14. Now, use your calculator and do 14 times 6 divided by 2. 14 times 6 divided by 2. And you get 42. Okay? I'm going to draw a couple more for you so we can talk about it. What if I gave you this? A triangle that looks like this. And you don't necessarily have to draw it, but I'm gonna label it like this. 12 centimeters and 5 centimeters. Where's the base of that triangle? So sometimes you guys get confused. Because the base doesn't necessarily mean the bottom. Because I could have labeled this too and said this is 10. And this is 8. Which one's the base? Caleb. The 12. The height has to touch the bottom, or the base. Okay? So this is considered the base, and this right here is the height. So sometimes you have to turn your paper to be able to see it. So we would do area equals base times height divided by 2. The base is 12, the height is 5. So you'd have to do 12 times 5 divided by 2. 12 times 5 is 60, divided by 2 is 30. Okay, I'm going to give you one more. If this was the shape, find the area of that. That is a trapezoid. There's our formula. What would you get for the area of that trapezoid? That's also what I got, okay? Base 1, I'm going to call this base 1 and this base 2. Doesn't really matter, I could switch those around, but I have to add the 13 and the 4 together first. Then multiply by 5 and divide by 2. 13 plus 4 is 17. 17 times 5 divided by 2 is 42.5 as your area. Okay, questions there?